Hi everyone, Brittany here. Oh wow, it has been a crazy year. A lot has been done and filmed and is waiting to be edited, but I just haven't had the time, so that time is now. It's better late than never, so without further ado, it's time to introduce to you how I made the teddy bear dress. At fashion school, our first design task of 2018 was to design and make an avant-garde look and then a commercial mini collection of 3 looks based on the avant-garde look. And when I say commercial, I say that pretty loosely, as you will see soon. I'll start off by showing you the bookwork and we'll go from there. So my initial concept was based on 2 ideas that I wanted to explore. The first was mostly about making an avant-garde piece that would play with the viewer's expectations, portraying ideas of what is conventionally cute or sweet on the surface, but when viewed deeper into the subject matter, it becomes odd and even grotesque. And then my second concept was about the idea of using materials, particularly childhood toys or craft materials, so my work could present ideas on the constant cycle of how we carelessly discard items we once cherished for something better. We also did a small workshop on laser cutting beforehand. I didn't actually do any laser cutting for this assessment, but I hope that you will be able to see some of that in my work next year. One of the requirements for assessment was to look at a designer or artist to drive a point of direction towards. So my first choice was for Sebastian Masada. He has a very unique and interesting view on the concept of kawaii and the way he represents it through art and fashion. So my personal interpretation of some of his works is how he takes the concept of kawaii to an extreme about surrealism as well. We see the pastels and the cute symbols, but then there's also these bulging eyes and things spilling across the floor, and it really builds a contrast between what we see as cute and what it could be beyond that. Then it was just a wee bit of experimentation on my part, bit of needle felting and experimenting with modelling paste. These examples didn't actually work. You can see that it's cracking and falling apart here. But that's kind of the beauty of doing a workbook, is that you can discover these issues early so they don't impact your work later on. Wee bit more research looking at the design elements and principles and relating them back to the artist. A little bit more experimenting with texture and glitter. These are all things that I didn't end up using, but the fact that I tried it in the first place I feel quite happy with, and it's always an approach that I can take in the future. This is another artist that I used as a source of inspiration, Pip and Pop. I saw one of the installations in New Zealand a while back and instantly fell in love. The use of colour and proportion and texture is incredible. Some initial concepts based on the research, they're very early and very simple. So then I looked at another artist who actually does performance art with these incredible suits made of fur and toys and just unexpected materials, and then using them in unexpected ways essentially. I love how the forms are distinctly human with the feet, but also distinctly inhuman with the bulging forms and how it's almost swallowing the wearer. So from all this research I started doing more experimentation, thinking about how I could dye fur that I already had, such as from secondhand toys and materials. I didn't want to buy new materials for this project, one of the reasons being that it was based on the concept of using old materials, and another because I don't have very much money. A poor fashion student just has to be very resourceful at these times. So I was trying to dye teddy bear fur. This one didn't work out as well as I hoped it did, but I wanted to see if I could improve it later on. So this is where I decided on using teddy bears specifically for my avant-garde as opposed to other toys or materials. My reasoning being that teddy bears are often a symbol of childhood endearment, compassion, love, and I wanted to kind of turn it on its head and turn it into this overly cute, almost grotesque form that is both visually appealing and deterring at the same time. So then I looked at other ways that teddy bears can be proportioned on the body, which can take direction or emphasis in other design elements and principles. So then I started some draping exercises, so putting teddy bears on the body in different ways, seeing how the actual fur draped across the body, because it's not a flat material, so it doesn't rest as you would intend it to. Afterwards I started making full body drapes of the bears and then placing them on a body through Photoshop. It just kind of brought a better idea of what the final garment could look like before I started making it. So a wee bit more fur dyeing experimentation. I tried the paint dye technique again with more vivid colours, but it just went back to being dull again and I ended up having to scrap this idea entirely. But then, as a moment of luck, I found this fabric spray. It actually kept the soft and bouncy texture of the fur, which is what I really wanted. So I ended up deciding on using this for the final garment. More experimentation with the colour, using warm, cool palettes or fresh colours. I ended up going with the pastel palette, more so referring back to the idea of kawaii and cuteness and how that could be useful in relating back to the teddy bears. This is not the final design yet. It is the layout or intention of what the structure of the teddy bears is going to be. So one thing that I've included with this garment is that I found a whole bunch of squeakers in the teddy bears, and I thought that I could put them back into the teddy bear dress in ways that weren't expected. There's a squeaker in the front teddy bear's nose and the back teddy bear's nose and on the sleeves inside the heads here. One of the very important things about designing an avant-garde piece is understanding how it's going to be built and especially how the model is going to get in and out of it. In order for the model to actually put it on, the back of the head on this bear rips out with Velcro and there's a hidden zipper so she can put it on and then take it off the same way. Bit more colour development, figuring out the final selection and the colours I was going to use for the spray. So now we have the final look of the avant-garde piece before I've made it. There are a bunch of elements that bring the whole look together. My final concept or description for this piece is, this is a garment that plays with your emotions. Teddy bears are an iconic symbol of childhood, love and innocence, but while we cherish such a concept, the sheer amount of utter cuteness can sometimes be too much. With so many bears, instead of having this cuteness multiplied, they have transformed into this overwhelming and cluttered form. While the colours are joyous and bright, they have become unpredictable, obnoxious and distracting to the eye. You may not know how to feel about it. Joy, confusion or disgust, but without a doubt it is captivating. In order to retain the garment's lightheartedness against such a strange shape and content, the fur remains very soft and fluffy, which is both pleasing to the eye and to the hand. So I wanted to use repetition throughout the look, so this is caused by the continuous fluffy texture and the colours. This helps the garment blend together into a single mass and becomes difficult for the eye to focus on a single area, as this is a garment to be seen as a whole, so it is strange and overwhelming to the eye instead of focusing on a single area. We have our auditory elements of the squeakers, but I did actually remove the entire sleeve from the final piece. This was more of an issue regarding time than design, unfortunately, but I still have the sleeves if I ever decide to attach them one day. There's a bit of symmetry going on with the bears resting on her shoulder, but you can see that it's almost claustrophobic, which is playing with the ideas of like the cuteness taking over. And the bears are resting straight, they're not angled all over the place because I found that to just be a bit too overwhelming and cluttered, so it has some structure while still being quite out there. Finally, we have the mini collection. I only ended up making this look. My key idea around this was that the fact that the avant-garde piece is so surreal and weird that the mini collection kind of has to have that same essence as well, and it has to have some element of the actual teddy bear involved in it. So I was playing with ideas of having teddy bears almost growing out of the garment, such as on these looks and on the teddy bear bralette. I found this gorgeous rainbow fur that I ended up deciding to make a fur coat out of for this look. So when it comes to design, that's pretty much it, and all that needs to be done now is to actually make it. The construction process on how the teddy bear dress was made is a little bit all over the place, mostly because I lost some of the footage, but I still have the best bits. So the bears were collected from a nearby eco store where they collect up secondhand or old toys and bag them up and resell them for about $3 to $5 each. And it really was just a case of pick and mix to find the bears that were the most suitable for the dress. So first of all, because their bears were absolutely filthy, I ended up having to clean them before doing anything else. This just meant that I had to remove their stuffing in order to wash their skins and then restuff them when they were on the garment. Just realised now how morbid this video is going to sound, so Sorry about that. I'm also kind of a germaphobe in these situations, which is why I was wearing gloves while unstuffing them. So once the beers were washed and hung up to dry, I began cutting and arranging them onto a sweatshirt dress base, which would not be visible once it was finished. I don't have this footage in particular anymore, unfortunately, but I do have how I made the shoes. These shoes were collected from leftovers at last year's fashion show that were unclaimed, so it was the perfect opportunity to repurpose them for this year's show. With the leftover fur from the teddy bears, the shoes were covered in strips of fur, stuck down with hot glue, leaving the heel exposed. I then respectfully detached the head from the teddy bear's body and then figured out how it was going to be arranged on the shoes. Before sticking it down though, I restuffed the head and then sewed it closed and then glued it to the end of the shoe. The hot glue has actually stood up very well considering the shoes have gone through at least 2 fashion shows and have been shipped across the country. However, I should say that the teddy bear dress was not made with hot glue. In fact, it was mostly sewn by hand to the garment. So here's the fun part. The dress is almost done, but it still needs a little colour. Using the fabric spray paint that I was experimenting with earlier in my workbook, the entire teddy bear dress and shoes were coated in this rainbow spray effect. It really was such a dramatic change to the outfit that I wasn't sure if I liked it for a while, but it definitely has grown on me over time. Afterwards, I covered the dress and shoes with rhinestones to add an extra sparkle effect when on the runway. Attached the shoulder bears, and then it was finally complete. So these are the finished shoes. The heels themselves are coated in glitter. There's a bit of wear and tear on them, but they have stood up surprisingly well. They're also surprisingly comfortable to wear. I think it's mostly got to do with the style of the shoe though, that it was applied to. But I am definitely looking forward to wearing these myself. So here's some photos and footage of the commercial look and the avant-garde in the fashion shows that happened not too long ago. Sending a big thanks to my models for being such good sports and for wearing something that isn't the easiest to wear. I think the commercial look, while it is interesting, it turned out quite nice too. I was debating about keeping the coat on or not because it tends to swarm the teddy bears, but it was just something so cool and fun that I just couldn't take it away. And that's it, for this project at least. I did feature another mini collection in that fashion show. I'm still putting the video together, but if you want to see what it looks like, then you can check it out on my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time, whenever that is, but see ya!